It seems like a lot of these programs, like the terms are very secretive. Like someone passed me one of these term sheets from a Big Five, and it was like under the cloak of darkness. You didn't get it from me. It's just like, do we really? Come on, it's just books. Is this level of secrecy really warranted? Can't we just be open about
work like the TikTok affiliate program or something?
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Create a marketplace. Let's go.
Hi, I'm Joe Beal, the founder and CEO of Microcosm Publishing. I'm also the author of A People's Guide to Publishing, which distills what I've learned from selling millions of books over the past 28 years.
I'm Elly Blue, the vice president of Microcosm. We started this podcast to share what we've learned with newer publishers, so you can learn from our mistakes. Or maybe you just want to learn about the publishing industry.
This week, we welcome back Jane Friedman of The Bottom Line to help us understand the many, many, many things that are happening in our small world of publishing. This week, we are going to answer a reader question, which is, how do I best make use of Bookstore Co-op?
Bookstore Co-op is where publishers offer incentives to bookstores to order certain numbers of copies or to market and promote certain books. It can also be tied to events. So if you have an author doing an event in store, you might get some sort of co-op fees or credits in support of that event. So it's essentially to help bookstores be rewarded when they are doing what you want as a publisher. It's usually connected to new titles. So new titles that are coming out that you want to see have a presence in the store. It can be as simple as, if you buy 6 copies of this frontlist title, we will give you a $25 credit. So it's kind of like getting a free book, right? Now, do you guys all have any sort of co-op that you offer to bookstores?
It's been some time. I mean, not to sound middle-aged, but in the last 20 years, the issue has become increasingly amorphous, whereas once upon a time, it was like, if you make this display, or if you buy more than 6 of this, but then what would happen is they would buy 7 and then return 6, and you're like, well, that didn't really work for anybody. And then you'd have a few incidents where, people would just be like, do you have co-op available for us to put this in our newsletter? And you're like, I mean, aren't you going to put it in your newsletter anyway? There's a lot of things like that where you're like, the value chain has become sort of reversed so many times that you have to wonder, like, in the end, we kind of work with our sales reps and we're like, the conversation and the store's proclivities. So if there's something that actually makes sense, bring it to us and we can approve on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It just seems like so many of sort of trade industry standards where it's like kind of set up to like rebalance the flow of wealth from the major publishers to the bookstores, and then small and medium-sized publishers can also try to do it, but that it doesn't scale that way for us.
We built this software from scratch to solve our own problems starting in 2001.
It's not only the reason for our survival, but the reason we've been a Publishers Weekly fastest growing publisher 3 years in a row.
Now we want to share it with you.
Join Working Lit and get back the agency to understand your publishing business, market and sell your books, and painlessly pay royalties.
Working Lit. Doing the math for publishers.
Visit workinglit.com to give it a try for free.
This question has come up for me from folks who they're wondering, when Barnes & Noble stopped doing co-op. I mean, I imagine there might still be some sort of partnership marketing going on between Barnes & Noble and publishers today. There's still displays in Barnes & Noble. But not in the way that it happened prior. So like when I worked at a traditional publishing house, the sales reps were constantly pitching Barnes & Noble on, put this book on this display, like on the Mother's Day display, or put it on the new in nonfiction display, or put it on this end cap, or there was all sorts of variations on this. And you would end up paying like, I don't know, like $1 a book for as many as they would order in. So if they took 2,000 copies to distribute across all of their stores nationwide, the publisher pays $2,000 for that placement. And what happened was a lot of books sold under co-op arrangements or placed would get returned. So it's, you've spent all this money to essentially advertise your book in Barnes & Noble, hoping that if it gets that visibility, it's going to move copies and the store will reorder and it will sell more copies and more copies. But not every book takes off, and then you end up essentially paying this advertising fee. So when James Daunt, the current CEO of Barnes & Noble, came on in 2019, he looked at this and he's like, look, we need to rip off the Band-Aid here. We need to start saying no to this co-op money because it's causing us to stock things in stores that people don't want to buy. We just want the advertising dollars and we're not being good booksellers. And, so the question is, now that Barnes & Noble is not performing that merchandising for big publishers, are they doing more with other types of stores, the independent booksellers? And so what I found is that basically nothing. There's not a whole lot of activity there that wasn't there prior. And moreover, in talking to bookstores, most of the time these co-op offers are not worth the time involved to basically offer proof to the publisher that, look, I did this. Now give me my $25. Like the administrative lift is too burdensome. And also the other interesting issue I ran into is that it's not like there's a major database of co-op deals offered by all publishers and you can go in there and see what sort of incentive can I get today? It doesn't exist. It's really on a publisher by publisher basis, and most stores don't even know that there might be an incentive. And often it's the sales reps actually who communicate, you should think about this or that sort of display or offer, because I think you're already going to sell such and such number of copies. The other thing that was interesting in my conversations with booksellers is that they really like the streamlined offerings and this isn't common, where if you sell a certain amount, in a quarter or in a year, you're just going to get a flat percentage kind of credit back for selling that much of the publisher's titles. And, it makes sense to me. It reduces the administrative burden. They're getting rewarded for having high sales. Everyone's happy, one hopes.
So like a cashback credit card, but
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we get that from a few publishers that we distribute.
Our industry is run by billionaires and conglomerates.
At Microcosm, we wanted the freedom to independently sell our books, easily pay royalties, manage our inventory, and understand our business all in one place.
That's why we've been using our own software since 2001.
Now, we want to share it with you.
Working Lit is the only business success software that is created and owned 100% by publishers for publishers.
Join Working Lit and get the agency you need to help your business grow.
Visit workinglit.com to try it for free.
Where we have marketing campaigns where we buy, publishers buy in to be included, and then we print, mail, and do telesales follow-ups. And those are pretty effective. It's actually the most effective thing that we do for marketing. So they work. Of course, I'd say co-op has a bad name and is so negatively besmirched that convincing people that this actually works and this is not a way for us to make money, but a way to sell books, that's actually the more difficult conversation.
Right. Yeah.
But what else what would you recommend to publishers?
I mean, I feel like part of the discussion is, do publishers want to support the independent bookstore community? I mean, I'm not saying that they're not getting their money's worth from whatever programs they do offer. But independent bookstores, most of them are small to medium sized. They operate on a razor thin margin. And so I guess offering something that makes it easy for them to take advantage will help support more of those stores. They're always asking, for things that make their lives easier because they're often short-staffed, or they don't, just them working with stocking and ordering and keeping track of all of the terms, that's hard enough for them without having to also then do all the paperwork associated with co-op. So it just really depends on how is the independent bookstore important to you as a publisher, and is the values of that supporting the values of that. Maybe you should have some sort of co-op arrangement that makes it easy for them to flourish and
dig it.
Sell more books.
I do. We had towards, I think it was
Love
in
it.
2017, Barnes & Noble would literally send us co-op proposals where the cost to participate in the co-op was literally greater than the total sale. So they would say, we want you to spend, $1,000 on this table placement. Our opening order is $100 or 100 copies. And we were like, well, but so why would we? Okay, never mind. And so use your calculators, everybody, and make sure that you're getting what you're paying for.
So I do think that this idea of a centralized database of co-op that publishers could add to and booksellers could draw from is brilliant, and someone should do that. If you're listening, someone.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us once again.
Please send your questions to podcast@microcosmpublishing.com so we can answer them on future episodes.
And please give us 5 stars on iTunes and everywhere else that podcasts are reviewed.
You can find us on the internet at microcosm.pub,
On Twitter at Microcosm.
on Facebook at Microcosm Publishing,
On Instagram at Microcosm_pub.
and here in Portland, Oregon on North Williams Avenue.
Thank you so much.
Have a wonderful week.